But welcome everybody. I'll get us started here. I'm excited to be talking to you today about process automation. It's a real passion of mine, and I gonna get to a little bit of details about myself here in a second. I've got a little slide to share, but I run a team here at Velosio that um, works with our clients and tries to automate the processes that you have. And so, we're often looking at clients who are still doing things manually or struggling with a particular thing that's taking a long time, and trying to help figure out how we can improve those things, how we can use the latest and greatest technology, and in order to make your life better. And so I'm going to be talking about that today. I'm going to be talking about Microsoft's tools that kind of come into play here that we can look at. Things like Power Platform and Copilot Studio are going to be top of mind. And so I'm excited to get us going. So let me advance here. So myself, my name is Aaron Moon. I've been with Velosio now for 8 years, and I've been again working with customers and partner organizations around business applications during that time. And so that means implementing things like ERP and CRM systems, as well as building new solutions and doing this automation thing that we're talking about. My team specializes in building mobile applications, AI agents, and of course, automation. Those pieces that will go from one place to the other, send notifications, connect data and systems together. I am focused on using low code tools, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go. But that means that I am not a custom developer. Um, I didn't go to school to code. And so we use these tools that Microsoft has provided that are really more click and drag, um, and less turning the lights off, sitting in the dark room and coding, as some people like to do. And so I'll talk more about the benefits there. But these platforms that we have available to us today are really are game changers and enabling people who aren't classically trained um, developers to build things that can help your day-to-day life. All right, so my goal for today is to cover a few kind of quick agenda items, and hold on just one. So I want to talk just generally about what process automation is. What are some of the key drivers that we see in our clients' environments? What challenges are people facing? I want to talk about the Power Platform. So that's a passion of mine, the tools that we like to use that we think are really empowering from Microsoft. I want to talk about Copilot and some of the new AI things that are becoming available. And this year has just been an explosion of things around AI. You've probably seen Copilot everywhere. If you're looking at Microsoft's content, everything is talking about Copilot. And then I want to cover a few kind of examples, things that you can get you thinking about what you might be able to do in your organization, and some things that Velosio has done for some clients of ours. So that's the goal. So let's jump in and just kind of at a very high level, what do I mean when I say process automation? This is really the act of using technology to automate repetitive tasks. So think about those things you're doing all the time. You're like, why do I spend an hour doing this every single day? Standardizing processes. So that means, can we do this the same way every time? Why do we have we have variations? Some people do it this way, some people do it that way. Um, can we standardize? And if we do that, if we kind of help those repetitive tasks, if we standardize some of those processes, ultimately that means we can be more efficient and we can be more effective at our day-to-day jobs. So that's the goal, and we'll be talking more about kind of how we can do that. But I think some of the drivers here is that we as humans really like to be creative. we like to be strategic. And those, at least, I can speak for myself, those repetitive manual tasks, anytime I encounter something that's like, I've got to do this thing over and over, if it's once a week or even once a month, I'm just so programmed to, I got to figure out how to not do this. How do I not do this thing, right? And so, that's what we're working towards is automating those repetitive manual tasks so that we can be more creative, more strategic. We can allow people to think and explore problems as opposed to just, the mindless kind of repetition. And so some of those, challenges and some additional things that we see, affecting this need to automate. Um, we're all working remotely a lot more. Not everybody is, but we are working remote more often, and that means that we're not all in the office together at times. We're not all there to watch over each other's shoulder, to say, "Watch me do this thing." And so we're kind of working in systems now that are, you're working at your home laptop, you're connected to some system, you're using Teams, you're using GoToWebinar, whatever it is. And there's more need for us to be able to collaborate, to be able to get those tasks done, and make sure that they're being done in the right way, right? And that that communication is effective between people. There's a lot, that can be lost if you're not there in front of the person, seeing their reaction, kind of, you know, reacting to whatever they're giving you. And so the systems and the automations that we put in place can be a really big, a big factor in making sure that we can achieve the business outcomes that we want to achieve. Kind of along with that is we're moving towards this kind of higher workload, capacity constrained employees, where where people are doing a lot, and we all feel this kind of need for more time, right? And the fact that we're all connected, we're all online at all times, only adds to that feeling of there's always something to do. And this is, I think some countries and areas probably have better culture in here than others, but the more that we can help to automate things, again, helps to kind of free up our employees' time. That's the goal. Another side of this is, with our digital world, customers are only demanding more, right? And the fact that I can Amazon Prime something to my house in 2 hours sometimes, or 2 days, probably more normal. That means that your customer is only expecting greater urgency, and you know uh, the time of your customer is just as valuable, if not, I was going to say if more. I think we'll say everybody's time is maybe is equal or valued, but your customer's time is valuable, and they certainly see it that way. And if you waste their time, then they're going to have lower satisfaction. And so this all kind of compiles to, hey, automation is necessary to win in the business world, and make sure that we can satisfy our customers as well. So that's kind of some of the what and the why. And now let's talk a little bit more about the technology and some of the things that we're starting to see in the marketplace. And so I mentioned, this year has been really big for AI. And one thing that you're hearing everywhere is Copilot, and we think, and Microsoft is certainly betting on this idea that conversational AI is the new interface or way that we can interact with our business systems, with the processes that we're working in. And so we're moving more towards this concept of, I can speak to a co-pilot and have it do things for me, much like I would speak to you as a person and ask you to do something for me. And so there's been some studies here. It says in 2024, this year, that 65% of organizations are going to be deploying automation technologies in with some level of AI in them. And so that means that if this study is correct, that more than half of you are using some level of AI in automation in your business. And then by 2026, 30% of work activities are going to be conversationally enabled. So that means that that concept of I'm going to ask a Copilot to do something, and then it's going to do it. Maybe that's me chatting, chatting with Copilot, chatting with that AI, or maybe it's even me speaking and voice to text, kind of asking for something. So this is a big component of what I want to talk about today. Is this move into actually being able to use AI in our automations. There's certainly lots of steps that are going to get us there, and there's lots of different components that we can use for automation outside of conversational AI. But I think this is something that's just increasing exponentially in the marketplace, and so we'll continue to we'll weave this in as we go. But let's take a little journey, if you will, around automation and the different ways that we've seen businesses perform automation, right? And so, you know, 15 years ago, we talk about simple automation, and there's lots of kind of click, and then repeat the clicks, right? And so automations that are kind of screen scraping or automating the clicks that people are doing inside of a system, and those you can look at those as some kind of a bot, or there's different names for those things, but you can think inside of some ERPs or Excel, you have macros, like that idea of clicking, and then it will do what a person would normally do. And so these are kind of almost like digital workers, right? Where it's doing something on your screen for you. And then we've got to move into this new era, or newer, in the middle of the timeline here, where we start to see more connection through APIs, and maybe you have automation that's occurring behind the scenes between your different systems. Maybe it's between servers, connecting SQL to SQL databases, doing all kinds of different things there. You also have, as you enter into like the 2015, 2014, you have that conversational kind of chatbot scenario, right? Where we started to see people with chatbots on their websites. And it's this thing that you can talk to, and sometimes it answers your question. And a lot of times it just has to send you to a person, right? But it's starting to come in, some of that conversational automation starting to come in, where I can now just ask something and get an answer, and maybe even ask something and trigger something to happen. Provide some information to this chatbot, and then it renews my registration, or does some kind of simple task, submits a request for me. And so as we moved into the last 5 to 6 years, this is really where we've seen interesting kind of shifts in a few different areas. So I think one of the big things is the low code app development area. And that's really where, as I mentioned in the beginning, that's where I love to spend time these days, and that's where my team focuses, is using these tools that are easy to use. They certainly can get pretty complex, and I can talk about that some more. But some of these tools started out pretty basic, and then over the years, as they've expanded, are now covering lots of complex scenarios. But they enable you to start automating and building quickly, right? It's a click, it's a few clicks to put something together. Anybody potentially can do it, and suddenly you start seeing a lot more automation happening, from the everyday kind of worker, right? Where maybe some of the things along this path have been harder to produce. Um, we're now starting to see that automation can come from anyone, and so um, you've got you've also got this introduction, and process analysis, process mining is has been part of this journey. Tools that can help to analyze what you're doing and spot where the problems are. But those really have matured in recent years as well. And so you start combining this ability to analyze your processes with tools that are available for everybody to use, and we're entering into this idea of hyper automation, where it's all hands on deck. We can enable a broader group of people inside your organization to have access to automation tools, and that means that more problems can be solved, and they can be solved quickly with easy to use tools, and really can start to send you into the future here. And again, we talk come back around. We'll talk more about the AI portion, but that's even another level of um, you know capability and enabling people to be able to solve problems. So hopefully that journey is kind of interesting for me to think through and talk through as you're looking at some of these kind of milestones along the way. But that idea of hyper automation is I think where the world that we're living in now, where so many things are available. And so let's talk specifically about some of the tools that are available to people um, today from Microsoft. And so the Power Platform is a suite of tools that Microsoft has created. These are the low code tools I've been mentioning, and they allow you to do things like build applications, build mobile apps an app that you can open on your phone, build automations, and that can be automations like doing things on your desktop, automating your clicks for you. It could be kind of behind the scenes, moving data, sending emails, sending notifications. There's uh, a whole host of different things we'll talk about there. You have Copilot and Copilot Studio. So this is the tool that you can actually start to build those intelligent agents. The thing that I'm going to ask it a question and it can do something for me. That could either be on your website or it could be something your employees are accessing. You have Power Pages, which allows you to build websites. So if you want to build something, excuse me, that is customer facing, that provides some information, allows maybe your customers, your vendors, your partners to interact with you. Power Pages is the place that you can do it. And then you have Power BI, which has been a staple in the business intelligence analytics space for a while now, and really is your place that you can start to aggregate your data and produce dashboards and reports. And again, all of these tools don't require you to be a custom developer, a trained, having to have gotten a degree in some low level programming language. All of these are tools that you could step into and begin to learn without any prior experience. So just a little bit kind of highlighting a little bit more of the different things that these tools can do. It's really just a never ending kind of path or journey of the different scenarios that you can tackle. And so everything from, again, building applications, building websites, to in the middle there you've got Power Automate doing things like uh, digital process automation. So that's connecting different web systems platforms together. You've got process mining, You've got that robotic process automation. That's just the recording or um, automation of what a person would be clicking. And then you've got one thing in here that I didn't talk about on the previous side, and that's Dataverse. And so Dataverse is kind of the one-stop shop of a place to put data that you want to be working with. It's online, and there's a whole host of kind of features there that are available that, again, are extremely easy to use for someone who's not a custom developer. It's a great place to just load up some data and then be able to build out a mobile power app, and you can do that in 10 minutes. You could create a quick kind of power app storing some data in Dataverse and have that available to use and test. It's pretty astounding um, how quickly you can move with some of these tools. So what I'd like to do next is I want to talk a little bit more in depth about Power Automate, the in the middle here of the screen, the process mining, digital process automation, robotic process. I'm going to talk about Power Automate, and then I want to talk a little bit more about Copilots and some of the AI perspective. And then once we get through kind of talking some of those things, we'll talk some scenarios. All right, so I've covered some of these things, but I think there's kind of a path that we see people going down when they're trying to automate things, and Power Automate really can be that tool, that platform that helps you to do it all. And so the first step I think is you've got to discover or identify where your pain points are, right? You got to know like what exactly it is that's causing the problem that can be automated. So it's that discovery is the first step. And so one of the things we'll talk about here in a second is this concept of process mining, identifying where the problem is. But you've got to identify your problem first, and then you can actually try to automate it, right? And so you can create things inside of Power Automate that can use AI. You can use all kinds of different data connectors that are available. There are thousands, I believe at this point, of Power Automate connectors that you can connect to Microsoft's services, but also everything else, right? All kinds of different third parties, Salesforce, Google, um, they're all there and available for you to connect to and automate. And you kind of have these two different options of you can do something again that's kind of digital, meaning it's connecting things that are in the cloud, that are web across the web, or you can automate and build out a process that's doing something on your desktop that's kind of mimicking what you would be doing so that you don't have to do all the clicks. Um, and so, that's once you get there into kind of automating, finding those things that you can start to automate, then you need to think about orchestration and governance of those things. So, if you're allowing people to starting to build Power Automates across your org, how do you maintain or govern what's happening? Set some rules and some guardrails in place around data loss, making sure that people essentially can only connect to certain things that you want them to be able to connect to. So that way they don't, take some data that's core from your organization and, send it out to some other service that you don't want them to send it out to. And so that's kind of that orchestration area and aligns with that security and governance band down below that we can, maintain that appropriate level of governance across these actions. But then as you're really getting into more extensive scenarios, you can start to connect Power Automate with other things in the platform. So maybe you've got some automations that are doing some critical things. Maybe you can connect that with an agent and an AI kind of Copilot agent that you can now basically ask it a question. Can you create a sales order for me, a draft sales order in my system? And the agent could connect to a Power Automate automation that you have built out, pass in some information, and then the automation could run and go connect and do the things in the appropriate manner that that this that you've specified. Or maybe it's connected to a website and you've got some actions there on the website that you allow a customer, partner, vendor to interact with. Maybe you've got a landing page where a lead or someone who's interested in your services could fill out a form, and then that triggers a Power Automate that goes out and loads their information into a system. Maybe it sends a notification. You've got a new a new interest, someone who's interested. Here's their details, or sends back to that person some information, some kind of a welcome email with some links. There's just all kinds of different things that you can start to do to connect in these automations with the applications and systems that you have in place today. So I think the story here for Power Automate is just really incredible. I could talk about it forever. I want to go back now and talk just briefly about the process mining concept of discovery. So just if you're not familiar with the kind of this concept, Power Automate has a tool that allows you to analyze all of the steps that you might take in a process. So here we're kind of showing the process of getting an invoice that you've received through an email and entering that invoice data into your system of record. And so you can see here that we start at the top. We've got different branches actually that invoices can come in through. You might receive the invoice through an email, or maybe you're receiving it through kind of an Excel file, or maybe the invoice has been loaded into some shared drive like a OneDrive, and you're picking it up from there, right? And so you've all got all of these steps that take a certain amount of time for a person or an automation to do. And then you've got to enter that invoice detail into the system. It generally takes the same amount of time there, 53 seconds, and then you're saving, and then maybe you're notifying, right? And so you can look at this and see where the potential inefficiencies, right? And we're talking about seconds. This isn't even this isn't huge, but that can add up over time if you've got thousands and thousands of invoices that this process needs to happen for. So you can look at these and see that maybe the downloading the email attachment from downloading the invoice attachment from the email is the step that takes the longest out of those first three. Maybe you try to reduce the time there that takes and automate just that piece. Or if you can automate the actual step of entering the invoice details, make that go faster somehow. And so this process mining concept really can be pretty broad in terms of just analyzing your process steps, identifying bottlenecks, but it also can discover the places where you would automate, right? Or you need some automation. So this is something I recommend that you do. Even if it's just kind of a people process of looking at the steps that you're going through. Standardizing those steps is key. Again, you want to have kind of a common way that things are happening. If it's all happening in different ways, that introduces different problems. But look at those processes, and you can consider looking at the process mining capabilities inside of Power Automate to help you with that as well. All right, so I'd like to move now and talk about Copilot a little bit more. So, we've got this great kind of idea about how automation can occur. I've been talking about these different tools that are available. And so this is probably the newest, the new kid on the block, right? And we've had different kind of evolutions of AI over the years. You've got kind of the base concept that we all have is that chatbot experience where you land on a website and you get the chat prompt, you can chat with me. But really what we're seeing with Copilot and with generative AI, which is the newest thing that's just exploded with things like ChatGPT kind of coming out with those large language models, these GPT models. Um, and so really now what we're seeing is that you can start to build an agent. I'm going to call it an agent. You could think of it like a chat bot, but an agent that can respond a lot more like a human. And using these large language models, we can now chat and get a response back like you would get from a Copilot or a Chat GPT, um, experience. And that's kind of one level of expansion, which means that you know the chatbot now no longer has to have a certain set of things that it knows about. It can respond a little bit more fluidly like a human would, and it might still say, I'm not sure about that, but maybe this would help you. um, and so that's really where we're starting to see a big shift in the automation world. And the other thing that's occurring is that these agents can now have access to your systems. So you think about all those connectors that something like Power Automate has access to. Um, Copilot and these custom agents that you can set up, you can give them access to those same connectors. You can give them access to those previously built automations that you've created. And now they can actually trigger things to happen, and they can be pretty smart about it. Like as you or I would understand kind of the nuance of what's being asked, it can understand a little bit more nuance and then be able to trigger the right automation or pass information through to that automation just by kind of that deducing what should be happening. Um, and so this really starts to unlock just a new realm of automation agents that can help us to do things. And so, that's really what Microsoft is seeing, is that um, this is changing how we're building different scenarios. Previously, we had when you had the chatbot on your website, you had to define the 10 things that it knew about, and it could do five, those 5 to 10 things, and then that was it, right? And so that's where you would hit that wall of like, sorry, I don't know, sorry, I can't help you. And so this is starting to unlock really just a whole nother realm of automation capability through these agents, and that they can generatively understand what a person's asking for in a more nuanced way, and can access these knowledge bases that they have, these automations, these connectors, the systems that you've allowed them to have access to try to figure out a response, kind of just on their own, versus you having to hard code in. If someone asks, this specific question, give them this specific answer, it can be a lot more fluid. And so that's just really, really changing the game. And so when we look at Copilot Studio and generative AI there, just to kind of summarize, we can now use these capabilities to generate dynamic answers. So again, no longer they say this, you say this. It can be more fluid, and it can kind of back and forth, just like if you were chatting with a person, with me directly, it can start to feel more like that. It can help to actually generate the different actions that it might actually take. So if it has access to a data source, and let's say you have a data source that is, all your active projects that you're working on. If you're a services organization like Velosio, this agent could have access to that list of projects. And if you ask a question like, how am I doing on this project, or can you tell me the latest status of this project, it can actually take action. It can go do a query and return you an answer that's backed by information. And again, you didn't have to tell it like, if they ask this, return these 5 things. It It's a little bit more fluid. It could also help us to build things, that and modify the automations and the agents themselves, right? So if it's helping you to understand what are the things that people might ask, and what are the additional things that maybe we should include. So we're seeing that AI even being incorporated into these automation tools. Um, so I can go on and on. I think there's just a lot to be said about AI. We're still learning about what it means for the automations themselves. How can we effectively automate, and and we're still all learning about how to talk about it too. So what I would recommend is start small, start discussing it together, trying to learn about what does it mean, what is Copilot, what is ChatGPT, what is a large language model, and just by talking, by experiencing, you'll start to be able to see the benefits of a tool like that in your world. So Copilot Studio is the place where we can build these agents, customized agents, and there's all kinds of different kind of AI services in there. So um, with that, I want to move into some more concrete examples. So I've been trying to sprinkle in some things as I've been going, but um, just some ideas for you, for your organization of, these are some of the common industries that Velosio is working with. This is not a all-inclusive list by any means, but it's hopefully can spark some kind of idea for you. And hopefully, as I've been talking, you've been thinking about what are those pain point processes? What are those things that take a lot of time? What are those things that are manual, repetitive? This person spends 8 hours a week doing this same thing, or every month I have to produce this report, and it takes me, 2 full days to produce that report. Those are the types of things that I would start looking at. And so if you're in one of these industries, or maybe you're not, read through some of these examples here. But I've got kind of it blocked out for applications versus portals or websites. You could think of that, and then kind of agents and automation, right? And so I'll give you an example for ProServe. That's kind of where Velosio is. Again, we're a project kind of based organization. We have consultants that are working with our clients and tracking the time that they're spending. And so one of the things that we've built out is an agent that can help to analyze the things that you're spending time on. Let's say you complete a meeting, and that agent can review the transcript of the meeting, summarize it for you, and and give you back that quick blurb of here's what this time was spent on. Maybe there's some action steps, and some of that's coming into different products. You'll see different meeting products. Um, but that's an idea. It's like there's this person that um, is summarizing the meeting for you, and it's an agent, right? It's an AI agent. It's an automation that's doing that, so a person doesn't have to like take a bunch of notes or listen back through the meeting and go back and review. It's helping to synthesize some of that data. Um, you can think about some of these other things around inventory. If you're in the manufacturing or distribution, how can we know, moving inventory around? What's our current levels? How much space do we have? There's all kinds of different scenarios there. You could think about making sure that your systems are connected and that you have real time data and information captured about those. So these are just some kind of generic examples. Again, hopefully some of these are ringing true as you're reading through them. I'd be very interested if any of you have any kind of ideas or concepts. I do have two additional kind of examples that I wanted to dive into, and then I'll be wrapping it up. And these are two that Velosio has built out, um, and are available for for our clients, um, if interested. So the first one here is an advanced approvals solution. And so, oftentimes you've got transactions, you've got things that are occurring in your system that need to be approved. And sometimes your system can support, approvals of those items. But oftentimes they're limited to a few levels of approval, or perhaps, you've got, they'll accommodate, one person approving or everybody approving. But there's some gaps that oftentimes people are looking for, and they're saying, hey, I really want, the ability to have a really complex matrix, have multiple levels with different conditions. If it's a different amount, it goes to, needs to go up to this person. If different departments or categories, then it's going to go to a different group of people. And so that's what this solution can help with. And it's an example of how you can use something like Power Automate to be sending, notifications. So when this transaction is submitted, you can have a Power Automate trigger and send out a Teams notification. And that person has to review that item and then click approve or reject, right? And then that goes back to the automation and it goes on to the next step. It rejects it, or it approves and goes up to the next person in line. And so this is something that we have built out and is available. If any of you are interested, love to talk to you. But really interesting kind of scenario there of where we're using Power Platform, we're using these tools kind of to enable advanced scenarios and automation that may not exist in your system of record that these items are living in. The other one is an invoice automation scenario, and this is a pretty common, in the process mining example I gave, it was around invoices. And so this is something that's, again, possible with these tools. You can have an automation that's watching for an invoice to come in, if that's via an email or landing in a shared document area, sucking that in and then actually extracting the details, right? So pulling out from a PDF doc that information of what's being captured, and then pushing that into a place that can be reviewed, that can be matched up with what actually needs to go in to the final system of record. It can be sent through approvals processes, and ultimately, click a button to automate that data into your ERP system, right? Create that invoice so that it can go through and go into AP, and all of those steps can occur from there. So this is an example again of something Velosio we've built out for clients before. If this rings true to you, again, would love to talk to you about it. But also can be example of what's possible for those of you out there listening. All right, so those are my kind of big examples, just to summarize some of the things we've talked about. I think, again, automation is everywhere. It's becoming more and more available to anyone who wants to try to make their day-to-day lives easier. These low-code tools are easy to get started with, easy to use. You don't have to be a trained developer to use them. And that really kind of enables this concept of hyper automation, that everybody can be automating together and advancing the business forward. And then you stack things like agents on top of those things, right? And I think, it's just the automation capability is just going to continue to explode as we have these tools at our fingertips. to build, applications, to build websites, and agents and automation. So um, that is all that I had for today. Again, if you guys found any of this interesting, I'd love to hear from you, love to talk with you. My contact info is here on the screen. If I can advance the slide here, and I'd love to connect with you. You can send me an email, tell me if you liked what I talked about, or even things you didn't like. Um, and if you'd like to collaborate or talk about some of the pain points that you have, I'd love to get on with you and do that. We do have a few things that you can look at. The some of the scenarios that I talked through, we actually are going to have available for kind of click through demos, so you can experience what one of these solutions might look like. And then we also have other sessions upcoming in this series, so I'd recommend that you check those out and watch Velosio's socials for those postings. So with that, let me see if I had anything else to cover. I don't think that I do. And so I will be wrapping it up again. Thank you to everyone for your time today, and I hope that you go out and solve lots of problems, automate lots of tasks, and make your lives easier. So thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.